The gala hall was glittering, chandeliers casting golden light over the most powerful people in the room. Every eye seemed fixed on the black woman walking in with quiet confidence, dressed in a sleek designer gown, her presence commanding attention, without a word. She was the CEO of a company worth hundreds of millions, a self-made powerhouse in a world that had tried to ignore her for years. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration of achievement, of deals, of influence. Instead, it became the stage for something far more shocking. A hush fell over the room when the billionaire white family noticed her, their faces twisted in disbelief, in a mixture of condescension and outrage, as if her success was an insult they hadn't been warned about. She approached the negotiation table, a poised smile masking her anticipation of discussion. But the atmosphere was thick with something darker, something unspoken yet palpable. Then it happened. One of the family members, a man whose wealth could buy entire cities, leaned forward and slapped her across the face. The room froze. Gasps rippled like waves, but no one moved. Shock painted the faces of guests, some unsure if what they saw had really happened. She touched her cheek, the sting a blur against the roar of humiliation echoing in her mind. Every instinct screamed at her to react, but she stayed perfectly still, her eyes locked on the man who dared to cross the line. The family laughed, a cruel, chilling sound, confident in the shield of their power. They thought they could control her, break her, intimidate her into submission. But what they didn't know was that they had just lit a fire they could never extinguish. Every insult, every whispered insult behind closed doors had prepared her for this moment. Not to beg, not to shrink, but to rise with a strength they would never understand. She took a deep breath, and in a silence that cut through the tension like a knife, she stood. Calm, unshaken, she gathered her documents, her phone, her dignity. Without a word, she turned and walked out of the gala hall. Every step echoed like a drumbeat of defiance. Billion-dollar deals, power, influence, they all meant nothing if she had to sacrifice herself to get them. The family's laughter died in their throats. The room was still. They had assumed the power was on their side, but for once, someone had reminded them that integrity cannot be bought and pride cannot be stolen. Tonight, they would learn the hard truth. Respect is earned, not demanded. And she would never allow anyone to take it away. But what happens next? Did walking away cost her everything she had built? Or did it set in motion a chain of events that would shake the billionaire world to its core? Before the glare of chandeliers and the sting of humiliation, there was a life that seemed almost ordinary. Almost, but never quite. Marcus and Emily had always been a couple who drew attention, not because they sought it, but because the world had a way of noticing them. Marcus, a charismatic black man in his early 30s, had worked his way from a modest neighborhood to become a rising star in tech entrepreneurship. His hands, calloused from early years in manual work, now moved with precision on a keyboard, crafting innovations that Fortune 500 companies would envy. But beyond the business world, Marcus had a warmth that drew people in. A genuine laugh, an easy smile, and eyes that seemed to see through pretense. Emily, on the other hand, was the picture of sophistication. A white woman with striking features, she had grown up in privilege, yet carried herself with a quiet empathy that set her apart from the cold social circles she often moved in. She worked in philanthropy, her days spent navigating charity boards, international nonprofits, and high-stakes fundraisers. Her life was neatly organized, her image carefully curated, but her heart thrived on authenticity, the kind she found in Marcus. Together, they seemed improbable, yet perfectly matched. Their apartment, a cozy loft in a bustling city, was a testament to their shared lives. Stacks of books side by side with sleek tech devices, photographs of family trips on the walls, and the aroma of Marcus's home-cooked meals lingering in the air while Emily's favorite jazz records played softly in the background. Friends who knew them often remarked on how seamlessly their differences blended. The vibrancy of Marcus's world collided with Emily's elegance, creating a life full of laughter, late-night debates, and tender moments. On weekends, they'd explore the city's hidden corners, small cafes, local markets, and art exhibits, finding joy in simplicity, unaware of how quickly the world outside would challenge them. Yet, even in these early days, subtle cracks appeared. A glance of disapproval at a restaurant, a whisper in the office corridor, the faint unease from Emily's family at holiday dinners. Marcus felt it most sharply, a society conditioned to scrutinize, judge, and underestimate him. Emily noticed, too, the subtle distancing of her social circle, the unspoken judgments on their interracial relationship. They never let it shadow their love, but it lingered like a storm on the horizon. Marcus had always known that the world didn't grant respect lightly to someone like him, and Emily had learned that charm and grace could only protect so much. Still, they lived with hope, believing in their shared strength, laughing at the absurdities, and creating a life that felt theirs, and theirs alone. But beneath the laughter, beneath the quiet dinners and weekend strolls, a tension simmered, one that no apartment, no cozy loft could shelter them from. A world of privilege and prejudice waited patiently, like a predator, ready to pounce the moment success made Marcus visible to those who could never imagine him as an equal. And that day was approaching faster than they could anticipate. A gala, invitation, glittering and prestigious, would seem like just another event, but in the hands of those who wielded wealth as power, it would become a crucible, a test of loyalty, of courage, and of dignity. And for Marcus and Emily, it would be the first time their love and resilience would collide with the raw, unfiltered face of societal prejudice. The evening of the gala began with glitz and charm, but tension was already in the air. Marcus and Emily arrived, expecting a night of networking and celebration, yet every step they took seemed to spark whispers. Eyes followed them, not with admiration, but with a quiet, simmering judgment. A glass of champagne, a polite nod, smiles painted over disdain, small, almost imperceptible, but corrosive in their accumulation. Marcus noticed the first slight before it became glaring. A wealthy executive, seated at a nearby table, subtly recoiled when Marcus reached to shake his hand. A colleague of Emily's, smiling at everyone else, froze mid-laugh and gave her a thin-lipped smile, eyes darting nervously at Marcus. They exchanged a glance, subtle but loaded. This world doesn't welcome you here. Then came the invitations to side conversations, private rooms where billion-dollar deals were whispered. They were excluded, deliberately overlooked, while others with less experience and fewer achievements were ushered inside. Every polite excuse, every forced smile, was a dagger disguised as civility. By the time the keynote speech began, the couple felt the room tightening around them. Words intended to celebrate innovation and entrepreneurship were laced with subtle reminders, who truly belonged and who didn't. Marcus's ideas, once praised in emails and private meetings, were now met with dismissive nods and patronizing claps. Emily tried to bridge the gap with warmth, but even her charm faltered under the invisible walls of prejudice. And then came the public humiliation. A minor mishap, a spilled drink, was exaggerated, turning into a spectacle. A wealthy guest, pretending to help, let his words drip with condescension. Oh, perhaps someone else should handle this. Every laugh, every whispered comment, cut like glass. Marcus's face burned, not from the drink, but from the sting of intentional mockery. Emily reached for his hand under the table, squeezing, grounding him. The final act of escalation happened during the deal meeting. The Billionaire family, once cordial, revealed their true colors. Comments once subtle became overtly dismissive, even cruel. One member leaned forward, voice low but dripping with malice. "Do you really think someone like you belongs here?" Shocked silence fell. Gasps rippled through the room, but many were frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Marcus's jaw tightened. Emily's eyes filled with controlled anger. They realized this was no longer about deals, it was about respect, identity, and dignity. And when the billionaire slapped Marcus metaphorically, turning their $1 billion opportunity into a stage for cruelty, something inside them shifted. They had choices. Walk away quietly, swallowed by humiliation, or rise with unshakable resolve. The weight of every slight, every whispered prejudice, had coalesced into a singular moment of clarity. And as Marcus looked into Emily's eyes, the silent question hung. Do we let them define us, or do we define ourselves? The tension was unbearable, and then the room held its breath. Marcus stood, documents clutched, Emily by his side, and Together they walked out. Every step was an assertion, a defiance, a declaration that they would not be broken. But the fallout was just beginning. Outside the glittering lights of the gala, the world was waiting, and the question remained: how far would the couple have to go to reclaim respect in a world that sought to deny them? The night had started with whispers and sideways glances, but it ended with a roar of cruelty that no one in the room would forget. Marcus and Emily found themselves at the center of a spectacle they had never anticipated, a gathering of wealth and power turned into a theater of prejudice. It began with the family patriarch, a billionaire with icy blue eyes, rising from his seat. The chatter in the room dimmed instantly, as if the air itself feared what was coming. Every head turned toward Marcus, the man who dared succeed despite the unspoken rules of their world. "You really think you belong here?" The patriarch's voice cut through the glittering gala, each word dripping with disdain. The words were loud enough for everyone to hear, punctuated with a derisive laugh that made the room flinch. Marcus's hand tightened around the contract he had fought for months to secure. Emily's fingers intertwined with his, their touch a lifeline amid the storm. But the patriarch wasn't done. He leaned closer, speaking as if to humiliate personally, not just verbally. "I don't know why you're even here. You're lucky we even let you sit at the table." The room was a mix of silent horror and cautious onlookers, unsure if intervention was their place. Some guests exchanged uncomfortable glances, but the family's influence had rendered most immobile. Then came the physical shock, swift, public, and humiliating. The patriarch's son, a man used to privilege and deference, slapped Marcus across the face, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Gasps erupted. Emily's scream caught in her throat as Marcus touched his cheek, the sting burning both physically and symbolically. It was a slap, not just to his face, but to every ounce of hard work, every struggle, every boundary broken to reach this moment. For a heartbeat, Marcus wavered, the humiliation threatening to crush his spirit. But then something powerful stirred. Every insult, every exclusion, every whisper of "you don't belong" came rushing back, not as a burden, but as fuel. He looked into Emily's eyes and saw a reflection of his own resolve. They would not be defeated tonight, not by money, not by status, not by hate. With a voice steady and commanding, Marcus spoke for the first time since the slap, his words slicing through the tension. "I am here because I earned it. Not because you approve. Not because of your privilege. I will not be silenced, dismissed, or humiliated in my own right." Emily, trembling but unwavering, added, "We came here with respect, with hope, with dignity. If you cannot see it, that is your failure, not ours." The room fell silent. The family, expecting submission, stared in disbelief as Marcus and Emily gathered their belongings. With a synchronized grace, they turned, walked out of the hall, and into a world where respect could not be bought, where courage outweighed. The cruelty of billion-dollar egos. Outside, the cool night air hit them like a bomb. The city lights stretched into infinity, a reminder that the world was bigger than any one family, bigger than any single act of prejudice. The couple's hands squeezed tightly together, hearts still racing, yet stronger than ever. As they disappeared into the night, the whisper traveled through the gala. Some had witnessed injustice, others had seen power challenged. And one question lingered in the air. How far will the world go to silence them? And how far will they rise in response? The world outside the gala hall was quiet, but for Marcus and Emily, it was a moment of awakening. They had faced public humiliation, prejudice, and blatant discrimination, yet they had emerged with a clarity that no insult or slap could take away. That night marked not an end, but a beginning, a new chapter defined not by wealth or approval, but by integrity, resilience, and unbreakable unity. In the weeks that followed, the story of the gala incident began to leak. Social media caught snippets, an overheard slap, stunned guests, and witnesses recounting the family's arrogance. But instead of shame, Marcus and Emily found unexpected support. Colleagues, friends, and even strangers reached out, applauding their courage and recognizing the injustice they had endured. The incident sparked conversations in business circles, challenging the long-standing norms of elitism and prejudice. Marcus's company, once just a rising star, became a symbol of excellence against adversity. Investors who had once been hesitant now saw not just a brilliant entrepreneur, but a man of character who refused to bow to oppression. Deals that might have been lost were replaced with opportunities that matched his vision and values. And Emily, ever the bridge builder, leveraged her network to highlight systemic discrimination in high society, drawing attention to the subtle and overt biases that marginalize talented individuals like Marcus. The couple's relationship, too, strengthened under pressure. The shared ordeal had forged a deeper understanding and mutual respect. Emily's unwavering support reminded Marcus that love can be a shield in the harshest storms, while Marcus's courage inspired Emily to confront her own fears of confrontation. Together they became a united front, a team capable of navigating a world that often tried to diminish them. But the story also rippled through the lives of the billionaire family. Their arrogance, once unchecked, was exposed. Rumors of internal conflict began, family members questioning the treatment of Marcus, some even privately apologizing or reconsidering their behavior. The patriarch, once untouchable in his social circle, found his reputation quietly eroding. While not every member of the family learned humility, the public scrutiny forced reflection, reminding them that cruelty leaves a mark not only on its victims, but on its perpetrators. Marcus and Emily also took tangible steps to turn the experience into positive change. They began mentoring young entrepreneurs from marginalized communities, sharing both the lessons of business and the courage to stand against prejudice. They spoke at conferences, emphasizing that success should never require the sacrifice of dignity or self-respect. Their story became more than a personal victory. It became a beacon of hope and empowerment for countless others who faced invisible walls. The moral of their journey crystallized in small, everyday victories. A student inspired to pursue a tech career, a professional refusing to tolerate discrimination, a couple choosing love over fear. These were the ripples of the courage Marcus and Emily had shown. They had proven that dignity is non-negotiable, that success is hollow without respect, and that unity between two people can be a powerful force against hatred. Years later, reflecting on that fateful night at the gala, Marcus and Emily saw not shame, but triumph. The slap, the whispers, the attempts to diminish them, all of it had only strengthened their resolve. They had chosen to rise above, to define their worth on their terms, and to inspire others to do the same. The world had tried to break them, but instead they had emerged stronger, their love unshaken, their mission clear, and the final lesson was undeniable. Prejudice may challenge you, but it cannot define you. Love, courage, and integrity can conquer even the most entrenched hate.